Dasha with Red Rock Pastel Society of Nevada. Hi.
Okay.
And here's Lana from New York.
Yay.
How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Doing fine, doing good. Nice to see you. So let's give a couple of minutes to everybody to join us who is gonna join and meet us. So.
Oh yeah, I had a question before from some people. Are you saving this for them?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
I did not save a previous one because
Right.
of our trial run. Yes, I can save it, and I will ask my Vice President Katya if she can to do little editing to it, some little magic, so it will look pretty. We're gonna upload it to our Instagram TV. So if we can, yeah, if it will be technically possible, we will try to do our best, and I will share it with you via Google Drive or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So well, I think that answered their questions.
Yeah, I have a few questions for Lana. So thank you again for agreeing, joining us today. And very first question, how did you start painting with pastel? Why did you pick pastels as your medium?
Well, it's a good question. And actually, I started with oils first when I was, started being serious about art. And when I moved to the United States, I decided to pursue my other passion, art. And first, at the few years that I was in the studio arts major, I painted with oils. Well, some drawings, some watercolors, but never really pastels. And then there were a couple of classes. I think I had 6 credits left to fulfill the requirements for the major before graduation. And I took 2 summer classes. One of them was pastels. So that was kind of like an introduction, but unfortunately I didn't fall in love with the medium there because it just kind of wasn't as inspiring. I guess the teachers, I hope they're not watching.
Did you get the good pastels? Did you get the good pastels and
I
good
got
paper?
the pastels. I bought the box of sennelier half sticks. So since then, I just love sennelier just because they're my very first beautiful soft pastels.
It's very velvety, very, very nice.
Yeah.
Tactile thing. Let me ask you one more question. So you say you started with oils, but before you moved to US, did you have classic art education prior?
No.
Did you love to draw as a kid?
Yes, yes, I was drawing as a kid. I was drawing little paper dolls for all my classmates.
So you can define the artist by the conspects.
Yeah, I definitely loved it, but we were living in small towns. There was no art school or anything basically nearby. So, and then if you remember, I know you lived in Russia, the education was kind of targeted. After you graduate, you kind of think about more practical, and I didn't have any preparation to enter the professional
art school,
right? To get at the college level at the art school.
It's very high competitive for the art school.
Yeah.
And it's very high demanding. So even you love to draw, you don't think about it as a career. You pursue something more practical, engineering, IT, physics, whatever is what can bring you bread. Art is just luxury, and as we know, it's for many people everywhere. Art is a luxury, and that's great what you had an ability to develop your talent here. So that's really cool.
Well, it's also one more thing about how it was there. You had to be more prepared because you had to show the portfolio before you would be accepted into the major, into the art school in college level. Yeah, you have already to show.
Yeah, you have to show your
good skills, and I just didn't have it. I didn't have a chance to develop that, so that was never really a choice. But I studied languages instead. But here, Here was a little different.
So you took some pastel classes and did not fall in love with the medium. When did you fall in love with the medium? Like
Well,
pastels, when
it's
love happened?
not that I didn't fall in love, like, but I just didn't see how it's so bright, and it just you cannot really get maybe like the shades you want, or this all these intricacies that you can mix your oil,
Yeah.
right, watercolors, and get certain nuances. But in that class, we were not really introduced into how to layer colors properly, how to achieve certain things, and it just kind of like left me with a huge question mark, like what do you do with it if you really want to go further? So eventually, I couldn't paint with oils after graduation because I was like in my small apartment. I didn't have great setup for oils. You need ventilation and everything. So I was looking for something that could allow me to work with color in a sort of similar way. And I think pastel is the closest to oils. If you can layer the color, you can work from dark to light. So all of that kind of contributed. And then once I was looking outside the window and I saw some beautiful scene that I just wanted to capture. And I know that, setting up oils or watercolors or anything else just took too much time. And I just grabbed this box of pastels off the shelves and just made a very quick sketch. And I was like, oh, wow, look at that. It worked.
This is like that impressionist nature of the medium.
Yes. Yes.
Immediateness, bright color, it's what all we love about pastels. That's
Yeah.
cool, like how it happened.
Yeah. When you kind of don't analyze that much, but you just like, grab it and do it. And it wasn't perfect, wasn't a perfect sketch, but you could see after that, you could kind of like look at it and say, wow, the mood of the day, the light of the day was there, even like with the very few colors that I had. You could still capture it, and it's like such beautiful pure color. It's and so from there on I spent more time. Actually, I just like to dive into things when I get excited about things. And I was reading all the magazines, well, except of course for pastels. Basically our main magazine is Pastel Journal, but you still see like here and there articles about it. And then one of my first books was pastel books was Albert Hendel's book. And I was just fascinated what can be done with that, this
I love Albert. I love Albert.
Yeah, that's where I just like fell in love with the medium.
Did you go to his IAPS demo, last IAPS demo?
I did not get to that. There were so many.
I know, so many choices. It's like a kid in a candy store, not fun.
Yeah.
I mean, candy store was there before the luxurious pastels, but I had the chance to see Albert in person on last IAPS, and it's the same IAPS where I met you too. So we met each other in person for the first time last June in Albuquerque. So yeah, that was cool and a great experience to meet your mentors and people whom you read books about.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, hi Bethany.
Yes,
hi everybody. Hey. So like you can meet them in person, and this is like you're in a Hollywood movie set. So this is amazing. Just looking back and reflecting, this is cool. Okay, back to you. You fell in love with pastels, and when you like, I have a question. What's important to me, because as a kid I draw a lot, but I have not created portfolio, as you say, and I don't have any of my childhood drawing from the years and years of art school. I don't have any piece of my art saved. And I never had any pieces of my art framed as a kid. So the very first piece I framed, it's my first pastel, what I painted like 4 or 5 years ago. I frame the very first piece what I created. I felt it's perfect and it's going on a wall. So that was it for me 5 years ago. So what was your first piece what you framed?
What I framed, geez, I think that was the one that I tried to put into the exhibition, into the local art league exhibition here on Long Island, and it was rejected. But I had to frame it.
You frame it before you enter it because it was like a live exhibition and a art show.
Yeah, I don't remember. I guess, wanted to be prepared when I get accepted. So I framed it in advance and it just wasn't. And, okay, so I just have this piece, little clementines. I like it. I still like it, but you get to develop your skills further and further, and you start seeing why it wasn't accepted. Maybe it was, kind of highly realistic piece, but very cautious, very kind of, trying to get every little thing, not so much as interesting marks or like things I pay attention to now. There it was more like about copying what's in front of you, not so much as
subjective also. It's all subjective. If they have, for example, different panel or different mood or different set of paintings what were entered. So maybe if there were less realistic paintings entered, this one would make it in. So you never know. It's so subjective.
Yes. And it's also, it was also like all media show. It wasn't just pastel show. So there's more variety, that they are going to look at more variety of work, more styles, more mediums. So it's just kind of natural that not everyone is going to get in, even if you think you are at a decent enough level. But sometimes what we think doesn't necessarily correlate with what it actually is too.
May I ask then, how long, how many years was in between when you start painting and then you entered your first exhibition?
Well, if we count the one that I wasn't accepted,
okay.
Well, I think I kind of discovered this, the beauty of pastels, or rediscovered pastels for myself somewhere around 2002, 2003. And I think shortly after that, I did that little piece that they didn't accept, but I was still continuing with that, but kind of on and off, because I was working as a web designer and it was very demanding on, time, because you work at work and then you come home. You still need to.
You have limited time.
Right. So you try to find time, but it's not always there. Then when I actually did start working for myself as a freelancer, still web design, but as a freelancer, then I could find time better. So it's somewhere around 2000. Well, it's also some changes in my life, and somewhere around 2011, I started working more consistently, basically, on pastel.
So 10 years, and you've been entering exhibitions along the way. So
somewhere
you try it as a novice experience. We become more cautious, but more experienced too. So our chances are higher, but our bravery is lower. And after and after that is just a part of a process. But
well, that's interesting how you said it, because I did get into my first show somewhere in 2012, I believe. There was a couple. There was Pastel Society of the West Coast and Richardson landscape show. I think it was 2012, if I remember correctly.
Those are very competitive shows also. They are competitive.
Yeah, and that was a boost. That was an encouragement. But just briefly saying that when I was just kind of starting out, and I actually didn't set my expectations appropriately, and I submitted to Pastel Society of America shows to the Pastel country.
You never know. You never know. It's like
Yeah.
lottery ticket. You just buy as many as you can get, and nobody knows. Like,
No, but the thing is, just don't set yourself up for disappointment. Like you can't, like with that attitude, it just might work. Yes, it's fun. You can do this, and what's the worst can happen? You just support other artists who are
exactly.
entering,
Yeah,
right?
I support my favorite charity.
Exactly,
Pastel
exactly.
around the world.
But if you seriously, expect a prize, like not just to enter but a reward, and then you really should think hard, that because the quality of work at that level is insane.
I mean, yes, like why do you enter?
Yeah.
It's the best.
Yeah, exactly. But I think
best in show, at least.
Yeah.
Привет.
Привет. I think we just, we really should enter competitions. I think it just helps to get out of your little, circle where parents probably praising you, saying that you're a genius, your friends that do like telling only nice things. Well, it depends on your friends, but most of them, and on Facebook, they're probably just giving you likes and
exactly.
nice positive feedback. But at the same time, when you get into the environment, when you have your kind of like similar level, I would say stick to at least similar level or a little bit higher.
Exactly. Yeah, you need to like you still need to compete with the best, learn from the best. I mean, you can learn anywhere, but if you're trying to improve yourself, you just pick artists whom you admire, and and you go from there. So a little bit off topic of competition. So you mentioned Albert before, but what artists you personally admire along your pastel journal? Like, who gives you the most inspiration? I just curious, like.
So many, but when I was kind of, trying to learn pastels, there were a few artists I was just couldn't get enough of looking at their work. Kim Lodier, Barbara Janicke, just off the top of my head, Lorenzo Chavez, his work is just absolutely exceptional. I'm sure I'm leaving out like the whole bunch of the names. But
yeah, no, I mean, it's not a selection like you can like all of them. It's just curious what inspired you on your journey. Like I started with Richard McKinley and
Richard McKinley.
Just by accident, like I bought a Great American set of pastels, and it had purple pines. I like, who will paint pines purple? It's my naive realistic period. And I'm like, oh, this guy apparently does. And I just started Googling and discover a whole bunch of things what he does, and was fortunate enough to get into workshop, and rest is history. So what was the first workshop you attended?
Last year, IAPS. And that would be Desmond and Hagen.
So that's such a dedication. So like you took all that time to read books and develop your skills. So it's such a dedication.
Well, I wasn't really, I didn't really have an opportunity before. I either was working or it just situation wasn't kind of like allowing me to go and take workshops. But I just was absorbing whatever I could, just from books, from videos sometimes.
Yeah, and there are so many resources right now available.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, Pastel Journal, books, internet, just following your favorite artist, what inspire you, and like it's a lot of out there. That's really cool.
Yes, I think right now we have so much to just, we don't necessarily have to go out and, study with an artist personally, and we still can, just by looking at someone's work, we can learn a lot. But definitely, like, their videos are available, and just, articles that they share every now and then. They share demos, Instagram. Always love to see my favorite artists' work on Instagram.
Yeah, I think Instagram, it's why we select this platform to do our live. I think it's most artist-friendly network because it's more visual. It's all about image. It's more about visualization. So I guess it's right here. So let me ask you a question. What is under our Instagram post right now? So Lena Maxina compliments you. She says, fantastic artist. Thank you for doing this, Dasha and Lana. My question for Lana would be regarding your underpainting process, blogging stage, and transition to detail. Thank you. So,
well, in this format, I would answer very briefly because of the time constraints, but basically I use hard pastels for the underpainting, and starting from the big shapes to smaller shapes. But if you go to my website and sign up for my newsletter, which is website is lanaballot.com. So some blog articles, I believe, have the underpainting shots, screens. So you can see some of it there. And I will also have an announcement soon that I will be doing a little bit more with the video. So you can do that, and you will see more. But yes, I love underpainting. Like, I do use underpainting a lot, and it's just a wonderful way to create that layering of the pigment with pastel.
You work large, yes, like so amazing waves, like large. And
not always, no.
No,
not always. Wait a sec, I'll show you the tiny format that I'm working in.
Oh my god! So you can work in a different sizes.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And actually, what's interesting, maybe I should talk about it just briefly. Sure. When I was just started learning with doing pastels, I was kind of, before that, I would work large in oils and, decent, not large, but kind of like medium size. When I started doing it with pastels, and they get one work ruined, another work ruined, and you get discouraged. So what I started doing is working like in a very kind of like small size, doing small color studies, and on something, on materials that are not that precious, don't feel that precious. Good pastels are essentials, but I think you can paint on just on regular sketchbook paper and even, get that color study kind of going and learn from it. So, and I think it helped me a lot to kind of start feeling free with how to, to be bold, how to change things in your work. It just, small sizes, yeah, I encourage it.
So small sizes, and don't make paper precious.
Yes.
What they teach in art school, like in Russian academic school, what paper is precious, what materials are precious. And when you're starting to enter fine art world, you buy high quality material, archival materials. You feel precious, like
Exactly.
you don't want to ruin this piece of paper. But to be an artist, to be a kid, to explore, you just need to forget about that. If you can afford to forget about that and just ruin, like
yes, you can't.
Yeah, you can. But if you can, just do not make it precious. Just work with what you not precious for you, and just express yourself. That's awesome. That's a great tip. Thank you.
Right. And you know, since we are pastel artists, like if it's watercolorist, then you need to have that great paper. Otherwise, it's just, you know, you're not getting what medium does actually. But as pastel artists, we can actually work on less
On top of
expensive
it.
surface and get away
Exactly.
with that.
Exactly.
Like
There is a death row. Like
yes.
you can use Gemzol, you can use alcohol, you can put gas on top of it. Like I have all creative plans for my failed paintings.
Yeah, and also about failed paintings, like I pull out of the box sometimes, like my 2-year-old paintings, even further back, and I look at them. Oh wow, I know how to fix it now.
That's cool.
Because
retrospective, you have more experience and times and distance.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes. So one question, aren't you afraid to move to big size after going small? So what we just talked about, like you're not afraid?
Well, I have a story to tell. Some of my students already heard this, but you know, when I did those small color studies, and that's what I started posting online. And then shortly after that, I got an email from a person who said, where do you sell your work? And I think at that point I was on Daily Paintworks, and I said, well, I have something there. She said, but where are your large paintings? She said, well, we like two of those small works that you have posted. Could you do those larger for us? And she was talking larger, like, you know, something was behind me.
Something what you can put above the couch, you know, like
yes,
that's a good size of a painting.
Yes. And I was like, I don't know, you know, because it's through email. I can kind of think through this a little bit before giving the answer. And I'm telling this to my husband, and he's like, you can do it. It's like, okay, that's nice. But how would I do this? How would I translate this very small format to the larger? And I decided, okay, I'm just going to give it a try. You know, so it's an opportunity. It's a great opportunity. So the worst can happen. I will just, you know, return the deposit, and that's it. So I did that, and she loved it. And that's how I knew that I can do large work as well. But I still was kind of sticking with, you know, medium format before I started doing going larger. And I still do different size format.
Okay, so supply and demand, basically. You can.
Well, you kind of want to show. See, like here's the problem. Like for me to take a good picture of this, I need to take it to a professional photographer, or I just recently found the company that can scan it for you. They can just put it face down on a scanner. They have this enormous scanner, and it will be high quality scan. So that's a nice way too, but that, you know, that costs money. As opposed to smaller work, I can take a better picture myself. So it kind of, that comes into place too. And also, some people cannot afford larger work. So, you know, it's nice for them that you offer the variety.
So if somebody interested in purchasing your work, do you have it available on your website, like lanaballot.com? Like you
I have that. I have, for those paintings that are available, there's a buy button, PayPal buy button. So
you start studying paintings, it's all about eye too. You need to train your eye, and if you're looking at something long time, you start noticing things. Or if on Instagram, like you seeing many images, and it's just attention span, you don't look at it long enough to capture everything, and it is small too. So I was looking at your post, what you did announcing our live, and was trying to find questions there. So I didn't find any questions under your post. So I guess we answered questions what we have under our announcement. And I have a couple of more questions about the shows. So
Sure.
how do you select show what to enter? How you go about it? Like when you enter the show?
Okay, well, I kind of want to give myself a fighting chance. That's to begin with. So if it's a show where I know they traditionally like would go with more abstract work, let's say, or something, something like this, then I don't submit there.
Like Art Basel in Miami, for example, like
Yeah, maybe. I'm not very well familiar, but I know that, shows of that kind, they usually like emphasize more abstract artists rather than, more realistic. Then another thing is, from the beginning, I was submitting to a lot of pastel shows. It's kind of nice because it's a niche. So in a way, you want to see where in between pastel artists your work fits, rather than, trying to sail your ship into this, like into the ocean, because it's just chances are lower and it's not the same. Like it's not as easy to compare your work to others. Shows are really good even for that reason. To enter shows is good also because you get to see where you stand, but it also, like, a lot of people have very low self-esteem when it comes to work. Yes, we get like praise from relatives, but also there's on the flip side is that people have very low self-esteem. They call themselves beginners while they have been working for some time in the medium. So submitting to a show that's actually, within that field will show you where you stand more or less. If you accept it, then hey, you're already not as much of a beginner as you thought you are. It's like that aspect of it as well. So I think it's nice. And the show
for many people to hear, because a lot of people shy and as an artist timid, way intimidated, and like, oh, I just a beginner, show me your work, oh my gosh, it's outstanding, and they just put it under the bed or like do not show to anybody.
Yeah, but in a way it's it's not as personal because you just submit your work and the jury will look at it. It's not that someone in your face is going to tell you, okay, this is no good. So if they just didn't select it, it's a little easier to take than if, you brought your portfolio to a gallerist and they say no. Kind of like in your face. But yeah, that's a big thing. I would look for the shows that are more appropriate to me at my level. And
how do you determine your level? Like everybody heard about IF's show, let's say PSA show. Like I did not even know what PSA or IF stands for, but I know we have a show. Like I entered, I got declined, I got upset. I didn't want to paint. So
that's another thing. Yeah, like I got the rejection in that first time that I submitted to these big shows, and I'm rejected. And even like local gallery where I sent some stuff, and they said, well, no, not needed at least at this point. And it's like, okay. But then I realized I really love the medium for what it is, much more than it matters to me to be in a show, at least at this point. So it's just like I cannot live without painting. So keep painting. And then, like, you develop. As you paint, you develop, you start seeing that the work maybe you submitted that last time actually was weaker. Maybe now you have a chance. So it's,
you keep on painting.
Yes, constantly reevaluating. So it's just natural. And don't get very upset. Don't take it personally. That's the only thing that I can recommend, because it's not about... It's not
about you personally.
Exactly. It's about the work.
It's just a chance at this point, at this time, and it can be different. So one, I like Albert. I think he did that example in his demo. When he was doing his demo, he said, like, I had one work. I been painting for a while, like more than 60 years, I think. I might be wrong by decade or so. And I feel strongly about some work. I will enter it to the show. It's Albert Handel saying, like, I got rejected.
Oh, wow.
I feel like, but this is a good work. So I entered to a different show. And it got best in show. So if you personally feel strongly about some work, right? Like if you feel it's a good work, just give it another try. I believe in it. It was very helpful from Albert. You cannot give up just after one try. When more chances, when better. And people get rejected even after 60 years of painting. And it's not people who get rejected. It's painting what didn't get accepted in a certain show. But like it's just part of a process.
But that is that's a good thing that you brought up, that you know, some of the works I know that we're like very emotionally invested into it, and I submitted one work to this show and it wasn't accepted, and now it's like it's sitting there and it's like there's something negative attached to it for me, that it's not good enough, you know. It's very, even your mind tells you, but you still might have this emotional kind of like residual feeling towards it. So it's,
and
you know,
how do you deal with it? Like
well, I'll give it another couple years, rework it, and probably be happy with it. I don't know, but again, like we have to be honest with ourselves, you know. I look at it at this work, and I definitely see some weak points, and yeah, maybe I'll rework it and maybe I'll like it better. But just if you really think it's, you know, it's a deserving work, then yes, you should submit it somewhere else. And sometimes it's just our emotions that kind of, you know, hold us back. Honestly, I hate to share this, but I think I should, because like at the end of the painting, I'm so super critical of it.
yeah, you need
because what's happening, you know, what's happening, you start with this great idea, you're so excited, you're just going to express it and it's going to be perfect. Then, you know, as you work, it just sort of like, you know, goes down and down in a way, because there's still, I cannot match yet what I see in my mind. But at the same time, give yourself enough credit to what's actually happening there, because sometimes it's pretty good, and just because it didn't, you know, hit that note in your mind where it should be, it's still great. It's actually pretty good that, you know, the colors are working. And so I think it's important to kind of just be your own psychologist to understand what's going on and not to get upset about these things.
That's awesome. So just find something what you like at the end of the work versus focusing on where you get frustrated.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Yes, yeah, that's a good way to.
Is this a takeaway from?
Yes, if it still, you know, does what you want it to do, creates maybe like that, you know, sunlit day atmosphere that I was after, just because maybe my mark making wasn't up to their, you know, my ideal, like, or maybe like I really like how someone else does it and I'm not quite doing it that way. You know, it doesn't mean that the work is worse necessarily. It's just you know, within my own style. In a way, it does what it should be doing, I guess.
Have to ask you about candies. Everybody likes candies, and I'm talking about pastels. What is your favorite? You say you started with Senneliers. So do you have favorites? What you always have in your box? Just let's talk a little bit about pastels.
Okay, pastels. Well, I do like, yes, Sennelier, definitely. That's the brand I started with, and they're beautiful, soft, creamy. I do love different kind of brands of pastels in different stages might make more, you know, sense, be more efficient. I do love Cherry Ludwig's. Kind of in the beginning, maybe those that are on a firmer side, like Mount Vision. They're on a firmer side, I say, but they're still beautifully soft. But it's just like you can layer them thinner without oversaturating the surface right away. Some of them I just like, particularly when I do those grasses. If they have that square shape, I can just touch the side of the stick and get that very thin, kind of like more organic line than if I just start drawing it myself, even with a pencil. So I can show you my box here. if I transition well enough. Yeah, I'll try to lower this, and let's see. Okay, maybe if I move it, and
Cherry Ludwig's.
okay, here we are. So this is my pastel box, and this is for plein air, and it's organized by the light and dark and color families and value. Well, value I mentioned, and the temperature basically. I kind of like to see where the cooler and warmer colors are when I'm looking at this. So I don't have that many reds, a lot of blues, a lot of purples. So that I realize I don't really need that many greens as I thought originally when I started painting.
Yeah.
But there's still enough, but there's a lot of these guys. Because there's a lot of Caesar painted, and purple is just an awesome color for any.
It's left. I just need to ask,
Sure.
Would you be entering our show? Like, you know, we have a show going on. It's an online show. Would you be entering?
Well, what is the deadline?
Well, deadline is March 25th, and we considering because we had a lot of questions. We considering extending it, so it's in a right now.
Right, your show is online, so it's not affected by anything. Basically, we just submit.
Yana said, do not enter our show. Reverse psychologist, do not enter our show. Let other people chance. So I guess we have to ask you not to enter. Please do not join Red Rock Pastel Society. Do not enter our online show. Please let our members have a chance. So I hope you will join us too. Like, you can join our Pastel Society. We do a lot of local work, as well as we're trying to be online to connect with all our members from across the state lines and even from the different countries. So we're trying to be open and just flexible enough for whatever work may bring in. So we have an online show going on right now. It is on Show Submit. Show Submit is a great platform where you can create your login and you can just enter all the different works, your works to all the different shows. So create your login, find our show. It's Red Rock Pastel Society of Nevada. You do need to be a member to enter it. Just check it out, give us a chance, and That's